Hello, second period, seventh period, and eighth period, getting ready for your test. But I'm also getting ready for Christmas. I'm in the Christmas mood, so let's listen to Frosty the Snowman. Feel free to sing along.
Frosty the Snowman.
Okay, that's enough. We got to get back to the algebra. We got a test tomorrow, remember? Okay, so here's the first problem. The product of two consecutive integers is 18,632. Use algebra to find the two integers. Well, the first step is to define the variables. I'm going to let x be the first of the two consecutive integers, and then the next consecutive integer will be x plus 1. Okay, and that'll be the second of the two consecutive integers. So I'm defining my variables. All right, now Kevin Merrick could tell you you're supposed to multiply x times the quantity of x plus 1. And Michael Gregg can tell you that's supposed to equal 18,632. Then Michael could tell you to distribute and get x squared plus, and he'd tell you to be very careful here, plus x, not plus 1. And that would equal 18,632. And if I ask any of my, what the heck is that? That 2 kind of got crazy on me. Oh my goodness. This airliner is acting strange. Maybe I should ask Santa Claus for a new one. But I don't think it's in his budget, unfortunately. All right, so any of the lovely Julias could tell me that now I should subtract 18,632 from both sides, minus 18,632. And when I do that, Morgan would tell me that I could get x squared plus x minus 18,632. Now Justine could tell me it's time for ABC. And Emily could say it's easy as 1, 1, negative 18,632, although she could sing it better than I could. All right, and then Miss Pasquale could say, well, I'm going to multiply A times C, and I'm going to get 18,632. Holly's going to say, don't you take the square root? Yes, Holly, you are correct. And when I do that, I get approximately 136 and a half. 136 and a half. All right. Maddie is going to warn us that don't round that. Leave it as about a half. I mean, we round it to the nearest tenth, but don't round it to the nearest whole number unless it's like really, really close to the next whole number. Like if I had gotten 136.998, then maybe I'd call it 137. Or 136.0005, I might call that 136. But this one I'm not going to round. Now, Joey could tell us that we're going to have to move half of the distance of B. Halfway of B. Well, B is 1, so that means we'd move a half. So he would say, let's add a half. And let's subtract a half. And when we do that, Anna could tell me to get 137 and 136. Angela would say, hey, Mr. Lawrence, I think I know the answer to the problem. And Mr. Lawrence would say, shh, it's a secret, Angela, because JoJo's getting ready to tell us what to do now. JoJo's going to say, well, Mr. Lawrence, we have to subtract these two factors of 18,632. I know I have to subtract them because C is negative. To get 1, I have to get B's value. So JoJo would say, Mr. Lawrence, I think we should do 137x minus 136x. And JoJo, you are absolutely correct. Miss Tick could tell us now to rewrite this trinomial as a polynomial, x squared plus 137x minus 136x minus 18,632. That would equal 0. Claire would say, Mr. Lawrence, it's time for grouping. And you are so correct, Claire. So I would group. All right, and then let me see here. Who would tell me the next thing? Who wants to give me the answer? Oh, I think Irina would say, let's take the GCF out of the first group, Mr. Lawrence, and get x times the quantity of x plus 137. And then the GCF of the second group, Mr. Lawrence, would be negative 136 times the quantity of x plus 137. And Irina, you'd be dead on the money. Good job, Irina. All right, now, my last step, which I think all my second period friends have given me the answer. Hope I didn't miss anybody. If I did, I apologize. Oh, Allie. Allie, how could I forget Allie? Allie would say, Mr. Lawrence, now we have to pull out a quantity of x plus 137. And we'll be left with a quantity of x minus 136. And that'll equal 0. All right. So I've got two quantities equal to 0. Dylan Nagy would tell me, well, now, Mr. Lawrence, you have to set them equal to 0 and solve. And in doing so, I will find out that x equals negative 137. And x over here equals positive 136. But then Alyssa would warn me, Mr. Lawrence, you also have to find x plus 2. And that would equal, no, it's not x plus 2, Mr. Lawrence. It's x plus 1. I was just testing you. Good test, Alyssa. Make sure we don't make the mistake. So Mr. Gerda would say x plus 1 would be negative 136. So there's one set of answers right there. If I multiply those two numbers, I get the 18,632 number. But then Sam Lynch would say, hey, Mr. Lawrence, don't forget to add 1 to the other part of the problem. And there's my other set of answers. All right, there's always two sets of answers. Okay, here's another problem. The product of two consecutive odd integers is 5,643. And this problem would be very similar to the last one. Kristen Deal will point out that it'll be a little different in our variables. Yeah, good job, Kristen. Because when I do that, when I set up my variables, I'm going to start off the same way. Jiminy Christmas, this pen is going crazy. I'm going to say let x be first odd integer. And then Kristen would say, well, now we have to use the quantity of x plus 2, not the quantity of x plus 1. Great job, Kristen, because odd numbers go up by 2's. There we go. So now it's done very much the same way. And Ezra King would say, Mr. Lawrence, it's time to multiply our two quantities, x times the quantity of x plus 2. And Rocky would say, well, that's got to equal the 5,643 number. And of course, Jacob Withrow would say, let's distribute. Do, 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 do. All right. And then I have to subtract 56,643 from both sides to get x squared plus 2x minus 56,643, and that will equal 0. All right, Pooja, the amazing Pooja. Pooja sounds like she should have that title in front of her name because she is kind of amazing, isn't she? All right, she would say it's time for A, B, C. And then Taylor would say it's going to be 1, 2, negative 5,643. Great job rhyming there, Taylor. All right, and then Kyle Robinson would say, I'm going to multiply 5,643 by 1, which is so true. Good job, Kyle. If this pen would agree, I would write down what you said. And then Morgan Novicki would say, let's take the square root of that. Oh yes, let's. Won't it be fun? More fun than opening presents at Christmas. And we get 237.997899. You know what? I'm going to round that to 238 because it is so close to 238. But I only do that when it's super duper close. And then Kim would say, well, Mr. Lawrence, we need to move up 1 from that to 239 and down 1 to 237. And I would say, why, Kim? And she said, well, we have to move half the distance of B on the number line. So I've got my two numbers. Now I need a positive 2x. And so Caitlin would say, let's do 239x minus 237x. But I might stop and ask Rebecca, why are we subtracting? And she'd say, because C is negative. And that would be a gold star answer, Rebecca. Very, very good. Okay, so I'm going to erase this so it's out of my way. Don't you ever erase your work. Okay, I'm going to do it on here. Normally I wouldn't be erasing. So I'm going to write down x squared, but instead of writing 2x, Sam Kazee is going to tell me to write positive 239x minus a 237x and minus 56,643. That will equal 0. Good job, Mr. Kazee. Now, Aaron would say, Mr. Lawrence, it's time to group. It's grouping time. Grouping time is now. Kind of like mail time. Grouping time. Anyway, all right, here we go. So I'll pull out an x and have an x plus 239. And then I'll pull out a negative 237. And I'll get an x plus a 239. I'm just going to verify that on a calculator because that sure seems strange. 56,643 divided by 237. Yep, 239. It's too easy, ladies and gentlemen. But whenever I have a doubt, I can always go and check. All right, now Mr. Hannon would suggest let's GCF one more time. So I'm going to pull out an x plus 239. And when I do that, I'll be left with an x minus 239, and that'll equal 0. All right, so now I have to solve. Kevin Coates would say, yeah, Mr. Lawrence, let's solve. X plus 239 equals 0. That means x equals negative 239, and therefore x plus 2 equals negative 237. Great job, Mr. Coates. All right, Bailey Leonard would say, but don't we have to do it to the other one? I can hear her saying it now. That should be a 237 there, not a 9. Sorry about that. X minus 237 equals 0. Oh dear. Please work for me, airliner. And then, of course, x will equal positive 237. And then Aaron Waters would remind me to add 2, x plus 2, and get 239. And there's my other set of solutions. All right, nice job, everybody. Real group effort on that. I like how you all participated. All right, you guys probably wondering, do I have like fat heads of all you in my classroom, and like I hide them and I put them in their desks and then I talk to you while I make the videos? Yeah, that'd be kind of creepy. No. Okay, so let's go on to this next problem. And Rachel's going to tell us, well, Mr. Lawrence, this is an area problem, and I know that length times width is one way to find the area of a rectangle. So I'm going to take the quantity of 3x plus 1 and multiply it by the quantity of 3x minus 2, and that will equal 130. Yeah, great job there, Rachel. And then Madison is going to say, well, let's double distribute and get 9x squared plus a 3x minus a 6x minus 3x, and that'll be minus 2, and that'll equal 130. And then Megan Green, lovely and talented Megan Green, would say, let's subtract 130. Okay, minus 130. And that was a wonderful answer, Miss Green. And so we will get 9x squared minus 3x minus 132 equals 0. That does not look like a 0, Mr. Lawrence. Thank you, Mr. Nicewander, for pointing that out. Very important here. We got to get our numbers right. Got to be clear for the friends at home. Yes. Okay. And now, let me see here. Mr. Hendrock would say it's time for ABC. Absolutely, it's time for ABC. And his friend Dom would sing it. Easy as 9, negative 3, negative 132. That's okay, Dom. I sing that poorly as well. Don't take offense. All right, so now Matt Mushat would say I got to multiply 8 times C. And so when I do that, I'm going to get an 8 carry the 1, another 8 carry a 2, 11,088. All right, since B is only 3, this is a good one to do the square root on. So Kiona would say, Mr. Lawrence, take the square root of 11,088. And when I do that, I get about pretty darn close to 34 and a half. So I'm going to leave that as 34 and a half. And now Ryan Bruler would say, let's move up and down from that number. And I'd say, Ryan, how far are we supposed to move? And she'd say, we're going to go up 1.5 because that's half a B, and we're going to go down 1.5. If I go up 1.5, 34 plus 1 is 35, plus a half would make 36, right? And if I go down 1.5, I'll be at 33. And look at that, am I 3 apart from each other? Now just to check, I'll divide 11,000 or 1,188 by 36, and sure enough, the calculator tells me 33. Always a good thing to check. So now I'm getting ready to rewrite, rewrite my trinomial. So I'm going to write 9x squared. And do I want 33 minus 36 or 36 minus 33? Well, I want a negative 3 for an answer, right, Mr. Rafe? And so I should do 33x minus 36x, right? That'll get me the negative 3x that I'm looking for. Josh Reed just confirmed it for us, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to write a plus 33x minus a 36x minus 132, and that will equal 0. So now, what are we going to do? Well, Mr. Moyer will say, let's group. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for your favorite algebraic game show, grouping. Our first contestant is Jake Kolbaga. Jake, come on down to the board and show us how to group. Oh, gee, Mr. Lawrence, I first want to say I'm really glad to be here. My GCF for the first quantity is a 3x. And so I'm going to pull that out and get a 3x plus an 11. Great job, Jake. Please don't worry about the poor imitation of your voice. You don't sound anything like that. And Ms. Kleckner, can you GCF the second group? And she'll say, I think so. And then she'll say, let's pull out a negative 36. And then we'll be left with an x. And you know, Mr. Lawrence, I don't know what 132 divided by 36 is. And I'll say, uh-oh, something's wrong. Mr. Lawrence has a mistake here. What is my mistake? Oh, I don't see it. I'm not getting a nice pretty whole number. I've made an error. 9 times 132, 1188, square root. Okay, 34 and a half. Okay, 34 and a half. And if I go up 1.5, I get 36. Yeah, okay, 36 and 33. Oh dear. Oh, there's my mistake, silly me. I'm so sorry. Kaylee, I know you said the right answer. I did the wrong thing. Hold on a second. Let me get my eraser here. I don't want to pull out a negative 36. I do want to pull out a negative, but you see how I want to get a 3x left in that first quantity? What would I have to divide 36x by to get a 3x for an answer? How about a negative 12? Absolutely, Kaylee. So I'm going to pull out a negative 12, and then I'll have a 3x, and then I'll have a 132 divided by 12, and that is 11. There we go. Silly mistake. All right, my fault. Okay, now we would go ahead and pull pull out the quantity of 3x plus 11. I'm really not moving that. It's kind of floating and it's driving me nuts. And then all of my students would notice there's a GCF hiding here, so they would quickly pull that out. It's a 3, isn't it? And then we'd have an x minus a 4. Yeah. And then we have to solve, and we're going to get x is going to equal 4, and x is going to equal negative 11 thirds. But when x is negative 11 thirds, my dimensions will turn into negative answers, so I'm not going to report that one. So I'm only going to report, what was it, 4. But I'm not done. I have to put 4 in here, right? So I do 3 times 4 plus 1, which will be 13 centimeters. And here I'll do 3 times 4 is 12, minus 2 is 10, 13 centimeters by 10 centimeters. All right, very good. Thank you for your help, everybody. I'm going to kind of take over now so it speeds up a little bit. I want you to remember to GCF first whenever you can. All right, now before I could solve this one, the 6x cubed minus 10x squared minus 24x equals 128, I'll subtract 128 from both sides. And when I do that, I'm going to get 6x cubed minus 10x squared minus 24x minus 128. That'll equal 0. And then I'm going to group, except actually before I group, I notice that they're all even. I'm going to see if I can pull a GCF out of here. And I'll bet you I can. I think it's a 2. Yeah, so I'm going to have 2. And then I'll have, geez, this thing's driving me nuts. All right, then I'll have 3x cubed minus 5x squared minus 24x minus 128. I'm a little worried here. Something's not going to work out right. Something's not going to work out right. Yeah. Make that a negative 128 there. Sorry about that. The signs are all wrong. It's not going to work. Okay. I won't do that to you on the test, I promise. All right. So now I have the 2 out front. I'm going to group these. And when I do so, I'm going to pull out an x. Then I'm going to have a 3x. I'm going to pull out an x squared. I'm going to have a 3x minus a 5. Yeah. Okay. And then here, I need to get a 3x there. I'm going to pull out a negative 8. And I'm sure hoping that 128 can be divided by, I think it's going to be, and I'm going to get 3x. And I'm not going to get 5. Man, there's something wrong with this problem. All right, we're going to stop this problem right now. There's something wrong with it. I've made a mistake somewhere. I can't see it. I should have quit at the beginning while I was ahead, but that's okay. So, difficult to erase. Sorry about that. This one's not going to work out. It's not going to be factorable. Okay, I think I have one more down here. I do. And this would be a great one to GCF first on, if the problem doesn't disappear from me. Wow. All right, we got to get this video finished before this thing totally messes up. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is GCF, which I think is going to be a 5x. So I'm going to pull a 5x out. I'm going to have an x squared minus 25. Now, some of you are going to stop here, but what you don't realize is this thing in the middle can be factored. You can factor it using the ABC method. You can do it by the difference of perfect squares. Or since b is 0, you could actually do it like a linear equation. I'll do it by ABC. And I'll get 1, 0, and negative 25. So I need 2 factors of 25 that subtract to get 0. Well, how about a 5x minus a 5x? And so when I do that, I'll have 5x out front, and I'll have an x squared plus a 5x minus a 5x minus a 25. That'll equal 0. So then I'll have a 5x, and I'll have a GCF here, or the first group. I'll have x times the quantity of x plus 5. And then I'll have a negative 5 pulled out, and I'll have an x plus 5 left. Going to equal 0. So then I'll have a 5x times the quantity of an x plus 5 times the quantity of x minus 5, and then I'll set it equal to 0. Now there's 3 quantities, so I'll do 5x equals 0, solve for x. I'll do x plus 5 equals 0, solve for x, and x minus 5 equals 0, and solve for x. And my solution set will end up being 0, negative 5, and 5. All right, that's it for the review video. Mr. Laurence signing off. Have a good night, everybody. By the way, you can go back and watch other videos if you need to.